For the women that are in these countries, if you encounter one of these passport bros, run his pockets. Take every piece of chump change he got and then go on about your merrily way. They claim that American women, black women, modern women, feminists are too masculine, too independent, and are too liberated. We just got way too many rights for them. But if you ask me, it is 100% pure bullshit. These men ain't trying to provide for nobody, because if that was the case, there are a plethora of traditional, submissive, agreeable women right here in the USA. These men are going to these other countries for one thing and one thing only, and that's to get laid. For the women that are in these countries, if you encounter one of these passport bros, run his pockets. Take every piece of chump change he got and then go on about your merrily way. Go home to your real man, because I promise you that is the only benefit that comes with dealing with them.
Hello YouTube, it's your boy the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Make Passport Bros Run Them Pockets and Dump Them, Then Go Home to Your Real Man, says Aunt Jemima. And the way this video came about was I was watching several of the Passport Bros channel, and this woman's video happened to come about, and I was listening to some of her talking points and a lot of the negative things she was saying about the Passport Bros. And so I wanted to use this video to debunk some of the stuff she was saying, because these are typical detractor talking points that have been out there for a while. And so I wanted to use this time to kind of debunk some of this and give and give more knowledge to people about traveling and that kind of thing. So first off, she talked about one of the main reasons. First she described what Passport Bros were, and then she described her reason of why she thinks that we're leaving, and then she said it pretty much was a bunch of BS. Like, she pretty much said that for the most part, that we complained that the women in the United States have too many rights. They're too liberated, and that is one of the main reasons that we're leaving. And there's maybe some truth in that. But anyway, she tried to dismiss this to begin with. So first I want to start off by saying it is actually true that the most of the divorce courts and the courts in general tend to cater towards the women. And as we know, like 80% of divorces are initiated by the woman. In many cases, such as in Michigan, in some cases, the guy doesn't even have to be the biological father to be put on child support. From what I heard from Dennis Sperlin, if you just even, let's say you're dating a single mom, and let's say that she asks you for some additional money to help her take care of her son, and you give her some money, the courts can look at that and say that you were providing like you kind of were supporting the child in a sense. In a sense, you're kind of taking on the stepfather role by doing so, even though you're just dating. But at some point, she can't actually, in some states, take you to court and make you pay child support, even though that's not your child. This has happened in several different cases. So you have that to worry about. Not to mention the Me Too movement. And then just recently, I was listening to Average Man Unplugged, and he talked about this new bill that got passed, and actually was looking it up. It actually got passed, I believe, around the January of this year or something like that. There's a bill called it's called the Speak Out Act. Speak Out Act. And it pretty much is an act of Congress which prevents the enforcement of non-disclosure agreements and instances of sexual assault and harassment. Now, what this basically means is, in some cases, what some of the rappers, entertainers would do is, whenever like a woman would like enter their household or something like that, they would make them sign like an NDA. Like, for example, I believe there was an instance in which Chris Brown did something similar. I could be wrong about that, but I just remember there was an incident that happened a while ago with it was some woman that tried to say he kind of like sexually harassed her or something like that. But anyway, only bring up to say that a lot of entertainers and stuff, sometimes they have the women sign non-disclosure agreements and that kind of thing, so that later they can't go back and try to sue for this and say you said this and all this stuff like that. But now with this bill, in many cases, even in many cases, even after signing like some type of agreement, the woman can come back and say you said all types of stuff, and basically what I'm trying to say is this is gonna make it even harder for like high value men or men of means to want to date, because now it's getting to a point where almost any interaction with some women can get turned into some type of like a lawsuit, harassment charge. We all know about the recent Michael Vick situation when he just touched a woman's elbow and then she tried to say that was sexually assault. Now, all he was doing was just greeting her as he was talking to her. She came to him like she was a fan. He slapped her on the elbow and they tried to say that was sexual assault. And then when we saw the video, we just saw it was all BS. So now you have this act as well. So, and then recently, there's an MMA fighter named Israel. I believe it's like Israel Andesanya or something like that. So anyway, he was dating this woman for a number of years throughout his MMA career. They were never married. They were just like boyfriend and girlfriend. And then recently he broke up with her. And now she's trying to put together a lawsuit to try to take half of what he owes. But the thing is, they weren't even married. You have that going on. And I don't know if you remember recently, there was a woman dating Tiger Woods. He tried to break up with her. She tried as well. She wanted to take him to court and said that he owes her something. So as you can see, it's always this predatory type thing where now women are just trying to find any little instant where they can get money, taken for men for just interacting with them. They just, for some reason, there's a lot of them that just think that you just owe them money just for interacting with them, entertaining them. So a lot of men, to debunk what the woman is saying, a lot of men, yeah, we're saying that we're tired of dealing with these laws. They'd have weaponized the courts and the laws against men. It's become very anti-male. So a lot of guys in general are just saying, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to get married in the States. I'll go overseas and I'll find me a foreign wife. I'm not going to deal with all that. Just recently, I believe it was saying, there was a video by O'Shea was saying that Drake now was looking for a woman overseas. There was a basketball player as well. I'm trying to remember his name. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that you're starting to see even some celebrities starting to go outside of the country to find wives and date women. And I just think, I thought it was going to kind of get to this point, but I didn't think it was going to accelerate this fast. But I figured at some point, at least maybe like a third of men in the United States were just going to be passport bros in general. But it's just really accelerating to the point where there's even celebrities considering doing that now. And what's so funny is at the beginning, a lot of these people would make fun of the passport bros and call them, call us losers and losers back home. And you guys don't, you just don't know how to talk to women. You ain't got no mouthpiece and all this stuff like that. But slowly, as time is turning and more men are becoming more aware of the characteristics of some of these women in the United States, and it's like the writings, like all the men can kind of see it. It's just getting to a point where there actually was another study as well that was saying that I think 60% of men in general in the United States were single versus like 30% of women. And then a big percentage of that 60% of the men were just checking out in general, which means they're not even looking for dates. They're not even looking for dates. Then they were saying by 2030, I think almost 50% of the women are expected to be single. I think single and childless. It's just really because men have just got to the point where they're just so burnt out and just opting out, just saying, I don't want to deal with it anymore. So what we try to do as Passport Bros is I try to educate men on my channel and let them know before you just completely say, I'm not getting married ever again, consider going the Passport Bro route, consider going overseas. I myself have had way more success overseas than I would ever have in the United States. I'm now engaged, and I know plenty of Passport Bros that are having success overseas. I have family members that are traveling, they're having success. I have friends as well. And the Passport Bro movie is just going to get bigger and bigger as the law keeps trying to weaponize these women against men. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen because, we're already in a recession. They're talking about like BRICS, and I don't necessarily think it's going to outdo the dollar, but what I'm trying to say is that we're in a recession, and I think we're about to supposedly have reached like a debt ceiling, which means at some point there's going to be a lot of cuts and that kind of thing. So it's just going to get rough for the United States, and there's going to be more and more women looking for men. So I would just say to a lot of guys listening, protect your seed. Be very, very careful about these laws. Some of these women, there's a lot of more women becoming homeless, which means there's going to be a lot of women that you used to talk to suddenly checking for you now. You need to be on alert about this. Be very careful about women asking you for money to take care of their kids and that kind of thing. You don't want to get caught up into like a little child support type of thing where that's not your child. So that's all I want to say on that, because I'm kind of going on a tangent because there was a few other points that she said that I wanted to kind of address as well. So that's that point. So next thing she said was, you guys only go to certain countries like the Philippines, Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, the DR, and that kind of thing. Here's the thing. Keep in mind, the other thing is, especially when it comes to like black men, and I'm trying to elevate any of my, non-black brothers as well when I say this, but keep in mind that countries such as like Colombia and Brazil, they have a large African presence outside of the United States. I believe, I want to say it's Brazil that has a larger, if not the, I take it back. I want to say they have a larger African presence than the United States. If not, they're like right after it. Then after that, you have Colombia. So a lot of black men are going out to countries like such as these because there are other like, Afro Latinas and that kind of thing there. Because what you'll notice is that a lot of passport bros, a lot of them in many cases tend to date among their races. Now there are exceptions because you do have a lot of white and black guys that go to like the Asia and they date like the Filipinas and that kind of thing. Me personally, I date everything. Like I date black women, white women, Hispanic, Asian. I like them all. So that's just me. But what I say is some of the reasons that men are actually going to these specific countries is because these countries don't have nearly as bad of a history when it comes to like black men and that kind of thing. So a lot of times when black men go down to some of these countries, and specifically because they have a more African presence there's less discrimination. You don't deal with nearly as much anti-blackness as you would in a country. In some of these like maybe Eastern European countries, or even in some parts of Asia, like maybe China, or even in certain parts of Latin America, like Argentina, which has had a very dark history when it comes to to black people in that country. So a lot of times, men will know, especially black men, you'll notice you do better in countries such as like Colombia and Brazil, where or even like the DR, even though the DR has had this issue with some of the Haitians there, but it's nowhere on the scale as it is in some of the other parts of Latin America. Like my opinion, even like when I went to Costa Rica, there was a little bit of colorism there, but far less when I went to the DR, because a lot of DR people, they look very similar to a lot of the African Americans in the United States. So when you go to DR, you notice that you don't really deal with as much discrimination or racism, that kind of thing, as you would back in the States. So a lot of times men are trying to get away from that. So that's one reason. Now the other reason, this includes everybody. This includes like the white men. This includes Hispanic men, Asian men. Everybody is. As I said before, most men date down. Most men tend to date down. Most men don't tend to date women who make more money than them. And it's not just because they don't want women who make more money than them, but women in general tend to want a guy, and Fresh and Fit talked about this. They tend to want somebody who either makes the same or more than them. They don't tend to date downward. So what I'm trying to say is men try to date women that are within like their social, like within their economical range. I'll put it that way. And keep in mind, in the United States, I believe only 10% of people make over $100,000 a year. And unfortunately, now you're seeing women saying that that's not even enough. They want a man who makes $200K, $300K, $500K. And I could show you and recently on Kendra G, there was actually an engineer on there. This guy probably makes over like $100,000 a year, and one of the women on there turned him down because she said he was boring. But the thing was, what we're trying to express to a lot of women is that same engineer, he can go to the Philippines, he can go to Brazil, he can go to Thailand, and he's a high value man there. And the women there, they're definitely looking for these type of men. As I've stated before, in many of these countries, specifically one she mentioned, um, majority of their GDP is only generated by a small portion of people. Most of the people there work in the informal sector, which is things such as, like Uber, Uber Eats. Like there might be a street vendor, there might be like a taxi cab driver. These are jobs that don't necessarily guarantee pay. They don't pay that much money. In a lot of cases, because a lot of people there are displaced, they move from city to city looking for work, and also to get away from crime and war. They're not really paying into like a to like a tax base. They're not really paying into like a 401k and that kind of thing. So in many cases, to kind of survive, they generally survive by having strong families, and in many cases the children take care of like the take care of the parents and that kind of thing. So it is very vital for them to find a significant other and build a family with that person. So a lot of cases, the women there are really looking for somebody to build with. And of course, we become a perfect fit for that, because since a lot of women in the United States are not really checking for the guys who are now passport bros will go to these countries and will quickly wife up these women, date these women, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a perfect storm. And then also keep in mind, I made a video also talking about how someone might try to say, well, you get the worst of the women there. But the thing is, what is considered the worst of the women in one country is not the same as it is in another country. For example, in the Philippines, having darker skin, having curly hair, that kind of thing, those are looked down upon in those countries. But me, myself, being African American, being around women who have curly hair all the time, I actually like, women with curly hair. I like the women who have the tans and that kind of thing. So we don't mind going there to these countries and taking these women off the hands of the men there, since they don't want those women. They tend to want the women who looks fairer skin, straight hair, that kind of thing. And then keep in mind, in the Philippines as well, divorce is actually illegal. So there's actually a culture there of shoot and scoot, in which a lot of men there, they don't want to get stuck and have to settle down with one woman, because divorce is illegal and they'll have to be stuck with that woman. So generally what they do is they just go around, in many cases, not all of them, having sex with the women, but they're not really wifing them up. That's to get around the law. So a lot of women there, obviously they're very aware of this. They're looking for husbands. And of course, since a lot of passport bros are looking for wives, it's just like the perfect fit. So a lot of men are going there and wifing up women and that kind of thing. And then she talked about, oh, you guys just want to go down there for poon and that kind of thing, and poon and then bounce. But here's the crazy thing about this. I believe they were saying 50, at one point they were saying 51% of black men are single and childless. Now, I recently saw the most recent report, which is 2023, and this comes from the CDC. Actually, the number has increased to 54% of black men are single and childless, which means there are about 46% of black men who do have children. Keep in mind that in the black community, 72% of children are born out of wedlock, which means what? Basically, what I'm trying to say is there is a huge amount of there's a small percentage of men that are pretty much sleeping with majority of the black women in general. So what I'm trying to say is that majority of them are gravitating towards a select amount of men. This 18% is usually like a Pookie and Ray Ray, or the opposite, like a high value Steve Harvey. Think about the NBA basketball players. So we'll call them Tyrone. So there's literally a bunch of Tyrones and a bunch of Pookies and Ray Rays that majority of the black women, unfortunately, are sleeping with. And here's the thing. I think there was like a city where I think it was about like 3 men, and they had about 76 children all together. And here's the thing. A lot of those women, they knew those men had children. They knew those men had other women. So if those men didn't wife up those women they had, one could only assume that, I mean, put it this way, my whole thing is that why are these women not suspicious of these men? Why are they not saying to themselves the same thing as women trying to say to us? Like she's saying, you guys you're just going out there to try to sleep with a bunch of women. But what about this 18% of men that you all keep sleeping with? What about the 18%? You're not questioning them. You're not pressuring them. And all we saying as Passport Bros is, and Dennis Sperling did a video on this where he said Pookie and Ray Ray, and we can add Tyrone to that. Pookie, Ray Ray, and Tyrone have won the war. They won the war. They won the women here. All we're doing is just turning our white flag here in the United States and going somewhere else. The women have made this decision on what type of man they want to deal with. And we're saying, go have at it. All we're saying is when Tyrone gets done with you and it turns out that you were just a side piece. Now, keep in mind that they said 60% of men are single, but only 30% of women were single, which means what? Some of these women are side pieces. So when a lot of these women get their, what's the word? When they come to reality and they realize in their late 30s that they were just a side piece, or they're just they were just some woman that the guy just wanted to mess around with. He fumbled around and had a baby with her. When they turn out that he never really saw her as marriage material, what she wants to do is come back to all the Passport Bros and they want us to wife them up. And we're saying, no, we don't want to do that. You made your decision. Stay with your decision. Go back to Pookie. Go back to Tyrone. That's all we're saying. We just want to be left alone and we want to go find us women who will choose us the first time around in their prime. You didn't want us in your prime. We don't want you in your decline. So that's that. And I kind of went on a tangent on that, but and I want to kind of wrap this up as well. So I'm gonna try to move on pretty quickly to to like one of the last points. She pretty much said she told the women there, you need to just run these guys for their pockets, get what you can out of them, kick them to the curb, go back to your real man. Basically saying we have nothing to offer. I just stated several different things. You only need 14,000 or more to be considered rich in the Philippines. We come there, we can bring stability. Like I said, a lot of jobs there, they're not that the people work, they're not very stable jobs. It's not a very stable economy. These women are looking for stability. A lot of Passport Bros can provide that as well. In addition to that, I'm willing to say that, and Dennis Sperling did another video on this called pretty much saying that a lot of American men are somewhat weak in comparison to foreign men. And what he meant by that is not that we're like you're just weak or soft. What he's trying to say is that a lot of men overseas, they don't put up with a lot of stuff that American men put up with. For example, recently, Austin Holloman released a video in which there was a guy that's been living in Africa for some time now. And he said a lot of the American women he meet there that are dating some of the men there, they wind up getting, beat up by a lot of the men. And that's mainly because a lot of these countries, not just Africa, Eastern Europe, China, South America, Asia, a lot of men there, they don't put up with all the I'm strong and independent stuff like that. They don't care how much money you got in many cases. I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of them in general will not put up with the same stuff that American men put up with. And that being said, a percentage of them as well, there is not beneath them to even put hands on a woman to show them that they're not going to put up with it. Now I don't endorse that. Most men don't endorse that, but it does happen. So what I'm trying to say is that American men are some of the most gentlest, let's meet in the middle, let's try to work this out men in the world. And and a lot of women, when we come over there, that's one of the reasons they really gravitate towards, because we're still somewhat in our, I hate to say, in our blue pill type of stage in which we still want to build with a woman and still like, still provide for her, almost like in that borderline Walt Disney type of way. And a lot of women, they gravitate towards that. And plus we are able to provide stability as well. And on top of that, she's saying, go back to your real man. But as I stated before, a lot of men there, they don't really have the funds to really provide for women like that. For example, a lot of times when they go on dates, they're not going out to this $600 dinners like some of the women are saying that they need to have in the States. They're not doing that. They're going to their local spots. Sometimes they have like family picnics, little small like street spots they go where they get food. And the women are okay with that. And that's pretty much their date. Very efficient, very cost efficient, very thrifty. They might do something like go for a walk in the park. They're sitting at the park. They'll talk. They're not going on very fancy, expensive dates. But when the passport bros come down there, because of course we have the additional buying power, we're taking them out to, fine restaurants. A lot of guys sometimes they're women that dating, they might need money for food. The men are buying them groceries, all kinds of stuff, So I said to say that in many cases, a lot of those men can't really compete in many cases to a lot of the passport bros. Now they do have their version of Tyrone down there and that kind of thing. And in as many cases, like a lot of passport bros will say, a lot of times they obviously get their first pick before passport bros come down there. A lot of them, some of the women, not all women there are necessarily looking for passport bros or even looking to leave their country. They do date some of the local men there. Sometimes they don't want to deal with a passport bro because we don't, might not speak the language as well as a local there. And then sometimes maybe their family is not as accepting. But either way, there is a portion of women there that want to deal with passport bros. And I say that to say that we're very competitive and we bring a lot to the table. And a lot of women are checking for us, whether you want to believe it or not. And if all one has to do is, I challenge you, get your Tinder, go down to Colombia, go down to the Philippines, open up your Tinder. I want you to see how many matches you get in comparison to how much you get back in the States, and you will be completely shocked. Now, let me say this about the app. Please be careful in Colombia because unfortunately, there are women who are targeting foreigners, and this is set up by some local gang members and that kind of stuff. So keep in mind, in some of these countries, things are pretty rough. People are trying to survive, so just be careful. But I'm going to end it on that. I kind of went on a large tangent. I made this video longer and larger than I wanted to make it. But you guys tell me what you think about this whole situation. What do you think about what she had to say? Let me know what you think she had to. Let me know what you think in the comments, and then also please subscribe to my channel if you have not, and please hit the thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. I definitely appreciate it. It goes a long way. Hit the notification bell so that you know when my next video comes out. I want to get out more content. Eventually, I want to get into doing streams and so forth. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.
Dear Passport Boys, dear Passport Bros, stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Are you going to the Philippines to look for a Filipina queen or what? So stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Start calling yourself Passport Kings.